Look up in the sky! It's an asteroid! It's a... is that a whale? No, it's Rosie O'Donnell, our hero of the day!
Wherever Rosie O'Donnell's gone, she's probably eating a leprechaun. She's our hero of the day for leaving America if Trump won and relocating to Ireland, where she's still not funny. So many celebs say they're going to do it, but never do. But does she have any regret?
Rosie O'Donnell has moved here. If you're president and you tackle the immigration crisis, and I do think Pakistan and India take a lot of the blame for it, Africa, but also Rosie O'Donnell, like, would you deport her? And
look,
you promised to deport
what is her criminal history? Has she got a criminal background? How did she enter the country? Did she enter the country illegally? Has she assimilated with our community? Does she hold our beliefs? Is she a upstanding member of our community?
No!
Or would she be? If she is not, well then she's gotta go.
A feud that once seemed like a simple, trashy tabloid headline somehow metastasized, spiraling into a defining battle of an entire political era. It pitted a daytime TV star, once beloved by millions, against a real estate mogul who would become the most powerful man in the world. The fallout was intensely personal, viciously public, and it drew a line in the sand for American culture. This is the story of how Rosie O'Donnell, the celebrated Queen of Nice, dismantled her own empire of kindness to become a political firebrand, and how commentators like Greg Gutfeld and Tucker Carlson turned her relentless crusade into a brutal, never-ending roast that exposed the very core of her public persona.
Rosie, you got this, Cohen. So Jim, Michael Cohen takes a stand this week in this hush money trial, and Rosie O'Donnell's been texting him, comforting him with message of support, like, breathe, you got this, I love you. What an unlikely couple.
No, you ain't gotta go home, you gotta get the hell out of here. But I don't know Rosie O'Donnell from Adam, but you know,
Would you be
I
willing
believe she's a comedian. I seen her on our national TV. She spoke a bit ill of me. I don't know Rosie. She seems going through something at the moment. And I'm not the type of person to kick a person when they're down. I wish for her, I believe she's a comedian is what her craft is. I wish for her to find her happiness again.
To truly understand the crash, you have to remember the spectacular ascent. In the 1990s, The Rosie O'Donnell Show was more than a TV program. It was a cultural phenomenon. In an era dominated by the shouting matches of Jerry Springer and the cynical edge of late night, Rosie's show was a beacon of daytime optimism, a warm hug in television form. She was America's best friend, famous for her giddy, infectious laugh, her unapologetic crush on Tom Cruise, and for gleefully firing koosh balls into a delighted audience.
How should you feel about Colby Covington? Well, if you can judge a man by his enemies, and you can, watch Rosie O'Donnell.
Trump just arrived at the UFC 296 because he loves Colby Covington. And Leon Edwards, I hope, is going to smash his face in because I can't stand Colby Covington and I can't stand Donald Trump.
The first major cracks in her carefully constructed image appeared long before the 2016 election. The true origin of her war with Donald Trump began in 2006 during her first tumultuous tenure on ABC's The View, when Trump, then owner of the Miss USA pageant, decided not to fire a controversial winner. Rosie unleashed a blistering on-air tirade. In a segment that lasted for minutes, she called him a snake oil salesman, mocked his multiple bankruptcies, and even impersonated him, combing her hair over her head in a caricature of his famous hairstyle. Trump, never one to let an insult slide, fired back with characteristic venom. He went on a media tour, calling her a real loser, a woman out of control, and attacking her looks, her intelligence, and the failure of her magazine. This was the opening shot in a war that would simmer for years, a deeply personal grudge destined to boil over. Her time on The View became a preview of what was to come, defined by explosive on-air clashes, most famously her split-screen showdown with co-host Elizabeth Hasselbeck over the Iraq War, a moment of raw, unscripted political fury that left audiences stunned. The Queen of Nice was officially dead, replaced by a warrior who seemed to thrive on conflict.
Why the first time in American history a president has won every swing state and is also best friends, and his largest donor was a man who owns and runs the internet. So I would hope that that would be investigated, and that we would see whether or not it was an anomaly or something else that happened on election night in America.
Is she cosplaying Ben Franklin?
Poor Ireland. Suddenly that whole potato famine doesn't seem so.
That long-simmering feud finally exploded onto the national stage in a moment that would change everything. During a 2015 Republican presidential debate, moderator Megyn Kelly confronted Donald Trump about his history of calling women he didn't like fat pigs, dogs, and slobs. Without missing a beat, Trump had a ready-made, audience-tested retort. Only Rosie O'Donnell. The crowd roared with laughter, but the moment was a strategic masterstroke. It weaponized a decade-old celebrity beef, transforming Rosie into the ultimate symbol of his opposition. For Rosie, this wasn't just another insult, it was a call to arms. The line was drawn, and she charged to the front lines, ready for a fight that would consume her public identity for the next decade.
She seems miserable, and it doesn't really matter where she goes. She's trying to get away from whatever is inside her, because I looked at her and I go like, wow, she has changed.
I mean, she's changed, but she's also the same. But I love that she deported herself because she's so upset about the illegals being deported. So she deported herself, which is good for her. But I don't know if she really did her homework because Ireland has a ton of illegals.
Yeah.
In fact, Ireland and the United States are both actually right up.
As the 2016 election hurtled toward its conclusion, Rosie made a bold and dramatic promise that countless celebrities make but rarely keep. If Donald Trump won the presidency, she would leave the country. When he did, she shocked everyone by actually following through.
Willed, strong-minded, and we are of amazing spirit. And it's about highlighting the issues that are going on, and as we have been doing, it's turning. We will get there. I am not going to sit here in front of you with a doom and gloom about the things that are going wrong. I will highlight for sure, but I will highlight the solutions and the resolutions and where we are headed and keep the outlook positive.
You know, Tyrus, it was like, I don't know if it was like 9 years ago, 10 years ago, there was this historical moment that had Trump, Megyn Kelly, and Rosie O'Donnell, and it's so funny to see like where each one has gone. Do we have the infamous tape? Let's roll this.
You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account—
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
But her self-imposed exile wasn't a quiet retirement. It was just a change of scenery for the same war. Her focus, now untethered from a daily Trump presidency, seemed to splinter, latching on to new allies and enemies with a bewildering, almost desperate intensity. In a truly bizarre twist, she became a personal cheerleader for Michael Cohen, Trump's disgraced former lawyer. During his high-stakes trial, she sent him private text messages of support, telling him, "Breathe, you got this. I love you." This unlikely, surreal alliance showcased her all-consuming mission to support anyone and everyone who stood in opposition to her ultimate nemesis. At the same time, she aimed her fury at new targets. When UFC fighter Colby Covington voiced his support for Trump, Rosie went on a public tirade, declaring she couldn't stand him and that she hoped his opponent would smash his face in.
What Rosie's saying.
I believe he should be impeached. I'm sickened by Congress that doesn't call for articles of impeachment. We have to fight with everything we got, because if somehow they're able to rig the elections again, as I believe they did in 2016, then we're going to all be in trouble as democracy dies, right?
It was this pattern of raw, unfiltered rage that led Tucker Carlson to diagnose her entire public persona as a form of bizarre performance art. He painted her media appearances not as political discourse, but as unintentional comedy meets screeching confusion. In his view, Rosie treated facts like an inconvenience, something to be brushed aside in favor of emotional theatrics. He argued she shouted half-formed points as if they were prophetic revelations, turning every interview into a cinematic event of her own making, where she was the star, director, and screaming protagonist. As one critic put it, watching her deliver political takes was like watching a cat try to do algebra. It's loud, confusing, and ends with furniture getting broken. Her social media presence was, in Tucker's framing, less activism and more emotional scrapbooking with a megaphone, a chaotic collage of outrage and hashtags.
That's the same thing with Rosie. You know why she's leaving,
Why?
right? We know why she's leaving. Come on, we know. It's literally an ego trip. Once nobody likes you, you just leave.
So when are you leaving, Jesse?
So you say one thing to Dana about tariffs and she hates you. You'll come around. I actually respect what's going on with her. Oh, God. Come on, she's the only celebrity that actually put her mouth where her foot is.
She followed through.
Whatever that stupid saying is.
She's followed through a lot.
While Tucker saw a chaotic performer, Greg Gutfeld saw something even more damning, a relic. He mercilessly described Rosie's attempts to stay relevant as being like a MySpace notification, popping up in 2025. Startling, unnecessary, and mostly a glitch in the system. For Gutfeld, Rosie was a full-time rerun of a show nobody had asked to renew. He argued her brand of defiance hadn't evolved since the days of dial-up internet. She was stuck in a loop, recycling the same rants and fighting old battles with a tired script. Gutfeld tore apart her dramatic chops with surgical sarcasm, saying every role she took was played with the emotional subtlety of a foghorn in a chapel. Watching her perform, he suggested, was like watching someone try to reboot Windows 95 with a hammer. Her worldview, he argued, was stuck in a time capsule from the early 2000s, wrapped in cable news outrage and sealed with tears from a canceled sitcom.
And the one thing I hate about the UFC is that he ruins it every time he shows up.
Would Rosie O'Donnell kill Colby Covington if she had the chance? The answer is, of course, yes, and she would do the same to you. You've never fought Rosie O'Donnell, right?
No, I would never fight a woman.
Why do you think she's so mad at you, since I assume you don't know her or hang out with her?
Every time I see Rosie getting unhinged, I think that's a sign that we're getting closer to taking back America. You know, I'm not sure what I ever did to offend her, so...
This critique was made sharper by what many saw as a house of mirrors built on contradictions. Rosie would passionately rail against wealth inequality and corporate greed, all while broadcasting her frustrations from lavish homes with more square footage than a shopping mall. She pleaded for kindness and compassion, yet her social media feeds often became a fire hose of venom aimed at anyone who dared to disagree with her. Tucker Carlson pointed out that her compassion was highly selective, conveniently activated only for those who shared her worldview. Gutfeld put it more bluntly, suggesting her activism was an ego trip. He noted that for some celebrities, once nobody likes you, you just leave. The implication was clear: her move wasn't about principle, but about escaping a country where her voice no longer held the same power.
I have no regrets. Not a day has gone by that I thought it was the wrong decision. I was welcomed with open arms. I knew after reading Project 2025 that if Trump got in, it was time for me and my non-binary child to leave the country. I made the decision within my family and my therapist, and should he win, and then when he did, we made the plan into action, and we were gone before he was inaugurated.
Wow, she's nuts. Hey. Apparently America couldn't be happier, but like I said, she's our hero of the day for doing what so many other celebs don't have the guts.
Have you been following us? It is pretty bizarre. It's like what happens when you get new friends. That like you lose your old friends and you get these new friends and you want to please your new friends. Ooh, now I have Rosie O'Donnell and Dan Goldman or whatever.
But you could feel that she was going through something even.
I could feel it for sure.
I think,
and I wish for her. I wish, happiness and spread love in the world. That's it.
Her online persona became a masterclass in self-sabotage, a digital train wreck unfolding in real time. Critics described her tweets as akin to someone trying to communicate through Morse code while riding a roller coaster blindfolded, raw, erratic, and completely devoid of self-awareness. This culminated in an infamous Twitter feud with conservative commentator Ben Shapiro. After a back and forth, Rosie responded with a crude, vulgar message, "Suck my D." Then, the moment was a point of no return. It was raw, aggressive, and for many it was the final nail in the coffin of her public credibility. She could no longer claim any moral high ground. She had stooped to the level of her crudest opponents. She was the only person who could start a feud, escalate it to DEFCON 5, and then act stunned when someone pushed back. So what is the legacy of Rosie O'Donnell's public transformation? Is she a tireless activist, bravely speaking truth to power from across the ocean? Or has she become a prisoner of her own unending feuds, a tragic figure consumed by a war she can't seem to escape? She remains a polarizing figure, a lightning rod for both fierce loyalty and biting ridicule. From her new home, she continues to broadcast her unfiltered thoughts on TikTok, a new stage for the same performance. But critics like Gutfeld and Carlson contend she's not dangerous, just exhausting. A rusted carnival ride spinning in circles, going nowhere fast. Yet, just when you think the ride has finally shuddered to a halt, she cranks the volume back up, fueled by retweets and unresolved rage, ready to crash the conversation once again. Because for Rosie, silence isn't golden, it's just time wasted not shouting. And one thing is certain, she'll be back. She always is.